Hi, good morning. Boris, thank you very much for the invitation to your great conference. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us in this really great conference. I attended last year and convinced Boris that I would like to talk to you also. And so now I am here, and we want to talk about a little bit about leadership and self-organization. And there's a big issue in the Agile world. We still tell people we don't need managers. I mean, maybe you have heard about that. There's this Scrum thing and this Agile thing, and we don't want to have managers anymore. The problem is that if you try to change an organization, telling the people who can change the organization they are not wanted anymore, they don't like you anymore, right? So, when you start doing a transition or a transformation from a non-Agile company to an Agile company, telling people they are not needed anymore is a bad idea. And it took the industry, the Agile industry, I would say around about 10 years to understand that an organization is much more than a process. And when I started doing Agile, I was in the very first training, or in one of the very first trainings in Edinburgh with Ken Schwaber, and he presented that picture, and that picture was the iconic, the Scrum picture. And whenever you talk about Agile, all Agile processes are still mapped in that specific way. You have this backlog thing on the left side, and then you have a process, and there's something miraculous thing, a wonder happens, and then there pops out some piece of functionality, software, a piece of product, a piece of strategy, whatever it is. This picture was very helpful in the beginning, but it's utterly nonsense. The whole Agile idea started with the idea of having teams that are self-organizing. And a team that is self-organized at the end will also create their own requirements. They will understand what is the product. They will themselves understand what is necessary for the end user. So what we need to do is we need to change in terms of leadership mindset, that we need to stop thinking that we give people some piece of work. Okay? It's the very first thing we need to step. We need to find other ideas how to bring people together to solve some problems. And the whole journey of Agile, it's a very large picture, and but the whole journey of Agile you can see on that very simple map here. There are some basics that are super important to understand from a leadership perspective. If you are maybe a CEO or a department manager and you would like to go with an Agile approach and you would like to have teams running, then please stick to the basics. And one of the first and very important basic is iterative and incremental development. So it's about getting absolutely clear in an Agile company, an Agile team, an Agile mindset. We don't plan everything from the start. We believe in a kind of trial and error, but not a senseless trial and error, but the best guess, and then we start something, and we would like to have a very small piece of thing done, so then we can talk about that, and then we can improve on that again and again and again. Okay? It's the very first basic. The second super important basic, it's not about planning the budget. When we started doing Agile, we were always confronted with the basic idea, wait a second, what is the amount of money we will need to spend? Okay. That was learned by all these managing approaches that we have from 100 years old. First, we need to understand what will it cost us. The problem of this approach is nobody at home, in your private life, would go this way. You would say, what is the amount of money I have and what do I get from it with it, right? So an Agile turned this around. They said, okay, let's start with what is the amount of money I have and what is the amount of time that I have been able to, that I can use. What's the moment when I need to be finished? What's the amount of money? And then you start. Okay, so you turn that pyramid around, and that's the very success. So as a manager, we need to understand it's not about understanding how much money we will need, it's about how much money I want to spend. The next really important basic is coming from Toyota and Skunk Works, is the basic idea, put people together, let them work on their own. Let them more or less disturbing free, okay? And based on these ideas, the Agile community derived a couple of processes, okay? One of the most important, because it was successful, I wouldn't say it's important by itself, it's just it was successful, was Scrum. It started more or less with a bunch of ideas, extreme program, feature-driven development, Crystal, a lot of ideas, and Scrum was successful in terms it was the one that worked. I don't know the best, but it started working and there was a wide adoption. So it started with Scrum. And then, over time, a lot of people started to understand the product owner as an issue. If I need someone who creates that list with all the right features, I need to have this genius guy who knows exactly what people want. And that contradicts, on one side, the idea to have very bright people in your team thinking about the best solution, right? I mean, you have this super important product owner guy, and then you have these super bright people, and then you have conflicts because the people in the team will say that what the product owner wants to have is nonsense. And then you have already conflicts in place, okay? And the issue was that, and it's still a problem, how can we believe that someone really knows what the customer really needs? So another methodology was developed that was called design thinking. And design thinking broke up with this myth that you have a list at the beginning. They even started to understand we don't even have an idea what the customer needs. So we need to observe what the customer needs, okay? So again, we started changing the mindset from a more kind of a kingdom product owner point of view, I know everything, and then I have a team that develops the stuff, to a more collaborative approach saying, maybe there's someone who is important to understand how much money we have, and he sticks to that point, and maybe he's the one who brings a team together running towards a vision, towards an idea. I mean, typically, and that is something that a very important neuroscientist in Germany tries to tell people at the moment. He says, typically there's one person with an idea. It starts always with one person. But that doesn't mean that this one person can do everything themselves. But typically you have one person who has an idea, he has a dream, and then this person finds a team of people who would like to join this idea. Okay? We call this guy visionary. That's the product owner. The problem with the product owner in most companies is they are project managers, but most project managers are not that visionary guys, typically. Okay. So then we got another big issue. We started to see that companies also wanted to do Agile. And then we said, okay, now we need to have this tremendous amount of cool frameworks like SAFe and LESS and whatever, these kind of things. But when we went back in history, looking into companies who are super successful, we found objectives and key results. And objectives and key results is Scrum on steroids. I mean, you try to run the whole company based on the very simple idea, do iterations, make absolutely clear to every employee in your company what is the most important thing that we would like to achieve in the next 3 months. And then you focus the whole organization on at round about 3 to 5 big things, and the rest is not important at all. And then it's a super cool idea. I mean, it's lean in practice, a very focused approach, very small backlog, very, very small work in progress. Right? And then you go with this to a large bank like, I don't know, what's a large bank? JP Morgan, I don't know, German Commerzbank, or an airline, and tell them, by the way, if you have to focus, and then they say, well, by the way, we have 500 projects running. Well, but the super successful companies like Google, they have 3 major initiatives. Yeah, but important. So again, we had a big issue. So when we talk about business agility, and we have super cool speakers here can talk about that much better than I, they will talk about, certainly, if you would like to go business agility, then you need to focus all your business activities. Yeah? And if you'd like to have a framework, maybe use objective and key results. Anyway, but these are all processes. And people tend to have, they would like to have processes. It's much easier to have processes than thinking about leadership. And then we understood over time that we still have an issue. You can have processes, but the process will not create an atmosphere by itself, by just creating a process, that people would like to join that idea and working together. And that's the big issue. I mean, the humans are more successful than all other social animals on this planet because they can collaborate on large aspects. And the problem with that is that in small environments like a tribe or so, you have very tight connections between people. And typically, the way to organize collaboration in a small flock or herd or in a tribe is by hierarchy. There's this cool, tough guy, right? And you can rule whole destinies like China, thousands of years, Egypt, you can Rome, by this kind of approach, as long as you can manage the information within your system. So the big issue is, if you would like to become larger, or if you want to get larger, then you have one big issue. You need to coordinate a large amount of people towards one specific idea, and typically you do that by having bureaucracy or processes, or you have a bunch of people who believe at least in a specific main idea, church. And then you try to repeat that over time in the discourse, but it's all hierarchically. So the problem of every system that goes large is how to organize the communication flow. And even that is the problem in the Agile world. How can we do that? How can we, what is the way to achieve synchronous work of a large amount of people by not telling people what they have to do? That's a strange problem. And the only way to do this is by developing a new kind of leadership, by giving people a kind of idea what is important and what is the goal that we would like to achieve, and then help them to see together what is the way to do it themselves. Yeah. It's a little bit like education. Right? And then you still need an issue. You still have an issue. I mean, so let's assume you would like to have these self-organizing teams and organization, and you are maybe one CEO, and you say, okay, let's self-organize, okay? You are my company now, but let's self-organize. And then I tell you, this is the the way to go. You know, that's the direction. I would like to have that building or the project or the new bank system or insurance system or whatever it is. This is what I want. And you tell me, because we have to trust in the Agile community, yeah? You go to the CEO, trust your teams. And then you tell the CEO, I need to trust you. I don't know you. I mean, we have thousands of people. I don't know you exactly, right? I mean, I've never talked together to you. I mean, never eat breakfast with you. So, but I have to trust you. And I need to bet all my money on you, maybe. Maybe we are in a crisis. And then people say, yeah, trust the people. And then I say, oh, what will I do? I will control, right? And the issue, or the fundamental, and that's this thing that is the greatest invention of Agile and Scrum and Lean and so on, was not to trust people. They created iterations. They said, I give a team a small amount of time, maybe a month, maybe a week, and nowadays we have hyper agile, 3 days or so. So I've given them a small amount of time. That small amount of time that I believe nothing can happen. I mean, if they go completely bullish and bullocks and strange, I mean, in 3 days, what can happen? So I give an iteration, and then I then I'd say, at the end of that iteration, I want that result. Okay. In the beginning, it was easy. Software development 2000 means we had, in a typical and average industry, the amount of a release time was 18 months, you know. So when we started doing Agile, so the typical project took around about 18 months. And then we said, okay, so if we can produce something in a month, 6 weeks or so, then we are super fast, you know. I mean, then people said immediately, wow, 6 weeks, that's impossible. 6 weeks, I mean, we were used to use, I mean, 18 months. You know. So that was a tremendous, I mean, and nobody needed to trust the teams anymore. Right? So, iterations. And the funny thing is with that approach is, if you now not only reflect on the results, is the customer happy, or is management happy, but you also reflect on the way you work as a team together. And there's someone who facilitates that in a way that we learned from Norman Kurth with the Prime Directive. Everything that happened in the last iteration is the only thing that could have happened, right? Because everybody knew at the time what he knew. And so if you go very, very humble in that specific meeting, and we really talk about what happened, and create a fearless atmosphere. So this is the first thing of leadership. You need to come up with a fearless atmosphere, right? Then people, if they really believe in the vision of the product owner, will start to think about what can we do better, right? I mean, this humans would like to be better. Have you ever seen a child that would like to do mistakes? No. I mean, I have a 2.5-year-old. She wants to do everything by herself. She doesn't do mistakes. I mean, they have no concept of mistakes, right? It's trial and error. I mean, humans don't want to do mistakes. Yeah. So why shouldn't they come up with the idea of becoming better if you have time to reflect? And whenever you try to introduce Agile on the business level, that's the first thing you need to do. Helping people to reflect, give them time. I was on an interesting class 4 weeks ago, and they told us that on average, a knowledge worker in the industry has only 24 minutes to learn something per week. 24 minutes. I mean, it's ridiculous. In a hyper-complex world that we are at the moment, with a lot of change, digital transition, and so on, we give our knowledge workers only 24 minutes per week to read something. And then we expect them to have cool, new, innovative ideas. I mean, that's strange. So if you want to become Agile, not only be as become, and if you really want to be Agile in your company, start with retrospectives, interaction. Try to do these kind of interactions and help the team. And then maybe you ask the teams what is the right thing to do. But you need to force them, and that's what I really believe in that. You need to force them to do iterations. And nobody at the beginning is used to that. They believe, oh, it's okay not to deliver in 3 weeks. Well, we do Scrum, you know, we can fail, that's fine, yeah, right? That's what they always say, we can fail. No, you can't. You have to deliver something. You have to earn your trust, because I'm the CEO and you have never proved to me that you can do what you told us. So everything started with processes. Really, everything. We had Scrum, we had feature-driven development, we had tons of other ideas, and some people in the industry still sell processes. That's okay, I mean, it's a money machine. Go to the big five, and now they will have, all these frameworks in place that you would like to buy from them. But in the end, it's just a process that tries to tell you, do iterations. And then we understood what I said, from point of working in an Agile world, that we need to come up with new ways of how to create our product environment, how the product development. So who is in charge of really having the idea to build the right product? And in the beginning, we believed it's a product owner. Nowadays, we know it's the whole team. Then we developed, that was just mentioned, I think it was by Ben, who said the big issue with Agile is it will create within your organization a lot of problems. People believe Agile creates these problems, but Agile only surfaces that. Yeah? It shows what it is. And the two things that you will see immediately is lack of infrastructure and the wrong architecture. And the funny thing with the architecture of your products is every organization, that's Conway's law, every organization can only develop a product that mirrors the organizational structure. So whenever you want to have a new kind of product that your organization wants to build, then you need to change the architecture. Yeah? Organizational architecture creates a specific product, and if the product does not meet the requirements of the market anymore, then you need to change the organizational architecture. And that's surfaced by doing Agile immediately. And then we find the next issue, and that is a very important problem for every Agile leader, because we trust the people, right? And after 3 weeks, we understand they don't have the skills. They don't know how to run a retrospective. They don't know how to run an iterative product development approach. Go to engineers and tell them now they have to come up with a new kind of plastic form or a new kind of circuit or a new kind of building material within 3 weeks. And then they will tell you it's impossible. We typically have development cycles of 3 years. A new car in a year. No, 7 years, right? We need to change from diesel to e-mobility. The whole German industry tried to defend against that problem since 10 years, right? Because the engineers say, that's impossible. Well, then comes Tesla and someone says, it's basically easy. So there is a lack of skills in our industry, because a lot of people don't have a clue how to build all these stuff, all these ideas in a different way that meets the demand to deliver something in a couple of days. Okay, so it's an Agile skill set problem. From a leadership perspective, that means if I want to grow my company, if I want to grow my team, the first thing I have to do is I have to educate people. I have to train them again. I have to spend a huge amount of money and giving them more skills. And now we have an issue. Giving them people more skills by frontal teaching is a waste of money. We know now that from 400 billion spent a year, only 15% reaches the people. $400 billion a year spent in education and business education, only 15% is effective. Why? Because we try to teach people. The new approach is self-directing. So self-education. Oh, what wonderful. I mean, Agile, self-educating, self-organization. So when people would like to learn something, they will do it themselves. You know? What's the reason for learning something? I mean, if I have a problem. So it needs to be relevant. So if you want to achieve something new from a leadership perspective, you need to give people issues, problems, and then you need to give them money so that they can come up with their own learning themselves. And they learn from peers the best. Okay? There's your educator, maybe I'm right. Also the peer education is done from peer to peer the best, you know? That's completely strange. Yeah, of course. I mean, sometimes you need to influence a little bit, but I mean, problem-based learning. Yeah. Case studies, you know, and you still have, I mean, it's crazy. That's the reason why we started to have a Scrum for Schools approach, but that's another story. So, and on top of that, you need to have leaders who understand all that, who understands the human nature, who understands that processes are not the solution. The solution is to get people to collaborate in environments who nobody knows what is the next thing that we need to know. it's a strange problem, you know? I mean, you don't know what you want, you don't know what you need, you don't know what you can prepare for. So the only way to do is you need to go small steps and try and explore again and again what is necessary. So, but we still have an issue. We need at least a couple of people, maybe 150 or maybe 1,000 people. Bas Wode, the speaker of last year, mentioned that when they did Agile at Nokia Siemens Network, they had to organize and orchestrate more than 1,000 people in their Agile projects. So sometimes we need a huge amount of people to achieve something. I mean, not only 5 or 6 to build a cool app or something like that. So what can we do? First, principle number 1, we need to have iterations. And then we might engage people not by telling people what they have to do, but maybe as a leader we could say, maybe there's something that is of interest for you. I mean, I have this vision, I would like to achieve something, and there are a huge amount of issues within that large vision that I have. And I'm 100% sure that you, my audience here, are more capable of doing the whole stuff than I'm myself. I mean, if I could do it myself, I would do it, of course, I mean, faster. But I need you, so maybe you have also ideas, okay? So I create a thing that's called marketplace, and Jutta in the next talk will talk much more about open space than I, but the very first principle is you have to have a marketplace. And the metaphor for this Agile leadership approach for organizations is open space. So what we do is we create a marketplace of everybody. So there's this large idea or this large vision, and I as a leader have to say, well, that's my large vision. That's what I would like to achieve. We need to change, we need to have a digital transformation, we need to have a different kind of bank, we need to have, I don't know, a new skyscraper in Dubai, I need to have this London Eye thing here, in Dubai, whatever it is, okay? And then you ask the people in your organization, what is your contribution, or what could be your contribution? Do you have an idea, okay? And in an open space conferences, they organize it this way that they have this marketplace, and then everybody who has an idea what he or she could contribute to that conference goes into that marketplace and says, this is my topic, I would like to talk about that. Who is in that vision? And that could be the organization of a whole company. You could say, basically, that's the things we need to do, and I, as a product owner or department manager or whoever it is, could say, that's the thing I'm careful about, okay, is within that vision. That's the thing I care about. I would like to do that. Who would like to join? And that's the moment when a very interesting thing happens. If you tell someone, that's what I'm interested in, I need people who would like to join. And you make absolutely clear in that moment when you tell them, this is the thing I'm interested in. And here are the constraints. Here are the things that we really need to achieve within this idea. And there are legal aspects, maybe also constraints, and there are budget constraints, and I have only budget for 10 people, and we need to be ready in 4 weeks, and that's what I need, that's what I want. And then people join, okay? Then it's a contract. People say, yes, that's cool. So they agreed on that, and if you say whoever is joined is doing that voluntarily, so you don't force people, not even by social force, like, you know, I like you so much, please. And then, okay, that's also a kind of pulling people into your project, okay? So if you really start saying, whoever comes is the right person who comes, then you have people within your small team that would like to work with you on your problem. Right? And by doing that, the organization by itself creates a kind of a fluid architecture. So that specific system starts at a specific point in time with a specific setup, trying to solve the overall problem. And now you do iterations. Again, iterations, key. So maybe after 4 weeks, or maybe 3 months, objective key results, you could do the same session again. You can say, wait, by the way, we created a couple of results. What is the next setup? So can we do the marketplace again? Yes, of course. We could do this kind of thing again and again and again and again and again. That was the way we first managed 2008, a 150-person project in Düsseldorf. Not exactly in an open space way, but in that way. So it was the first step in that direction, okay? So we had every month a large audience in a large ballroom, in a hotel with a large ballroom, and we put all these people together in small teams, and then we asked the teams what they would like to do from our backlog. We still believed in backlogs, you know. So from a leadership perspective, when you try that, you have an issue. At least if you have a history of classical company, what is the issue? A lot of managers believe nobody will show up. They really fear nobody will show up. And sometimes this happens. It happened to us. I mean, in my own organization, we are completely organized this way. And sometimes we have a project already sold to customers, and nobody shows up. Well, then I have an issue. I mean, now you have a problem. I mean, you have a contract on one side, nobody shows up. Typically, nobody shows up because most people in the organization had no clue why it's so important. So sometimes you need to reinforce the vision, or you need to explain. You need to explain to people why is that specific problem so super important to solve, and please show up. Yeah. Or you need to make it more attractive. So it's a stupid project. Nobody wants that in your. It's on the end of the world, you know. And we had this. So there was some kind of products development done in, I don't know, somewhere in the forest in Germany. Nobody, no trains, nothing. It was bad. Nobody wanted to go. And I said, okay, what can we do? I mean, how can we make it more attractive? And then some people, give me 2 days off after that. And I said, I mean, by the way, that's a decision that you can do yourself. But yes, why not? I mean, yeah, okay, then I can do that. So sometimes it is another idea from a leadership perspective to find out how you can do your stupid product development thing that nobody would like to do to make it so attractive that at least someone shows up. And even then, you should learn. You should answer, why did nobody show up? It's not attractive for my people. Mm-hmm. So maybe I don't create these kind of opportunities anymore. If my organization is not adaptive to that specific environment, maybe I should listen to the people. I should do what they believe is important instead of what I believe is important. Okay? And of course, that's sometimes a little bit complicated to do. And from a leadership perspective, that listening part is the real issue. Because most leaders, at least that I've come across in the last 15 to 18 years, really believe what they believe is the right thing. Yeah, that's the Pharaoh complex. I was so successful in my career. I'm maybe the CEO of a large, I don't know, whatever corporation. I make tremendous amount of money. I have everything settled, and I am the cool boss. You know, I mean, it's of course, I mean, yeah. And suddenly we have something like a digital transformation. I have no clue. I'm like our chancellor in Germany, Merkel, told us 3 years ago, we still have no idea what the internet is. So you are the boss of a country and tell in the public, I have still no real idea what internet really, I Yeah, that's Merkel, you know. But the fun aspect of this stupid example is that's the problem with these pharaohs in these large corporations. I mean, they're sitting behind desks, sometimes in a building on top. I mean, it was last time again in the bank. All the people on the floor, and the large one, the big important people on top, right, behind any curtains. And they say this is the way the company should go. And what happened with Commerzbank and Deutsche Bank? I mean, now they need to merge, two losers merge to create the next loser. I mean that's incredible. I mean, unbelievable, you know, because these guys are super. They're not attached to the reality anymore, and that's obvious. Yeah? So the only way to change that approach is to say, I as a leader need to start listening to my people. But I don't trust them. Again, no, don't trust them. What you should do is you say, oh, I listen to you, that's fine, do some iterations. I'm happy with that. And if the results that you promised us is of beneficial for the company, let's go. Let's create data. Let's come up with data. Let's have some ideas how we can measure how successful we are. And now we have an next issue. Who needs to know all this data and all this information in a self-organizing system? The boss? Of course not. So if you would like to create a self-organized, fully aware body, you need to come up with an infrastructure within your organization so that everybody in your organization has all information. Because if only if the people on the shop floor, so to say, know what is necessary. So what is the current sales of our cars? Do we really work on the weekends? I mean, if nobody sells out the cars anymore, so we don't need to work on the weekends, right? Then we might help the salespeople go out of the factories and working with the salespeople, or whatever it is. But give people the information. And then I talked to the controlling people in large corporations and asking, can you imagine to give all this information to your staff? What do you think is the answer? Of course not. I mean, the profit? No. What is the sales number? No. And that's crazy. Yeah? How can I do decisions on the shop floor level, so to say, if I don't have the information? Yeah? And of course, now we have created an issue. I mean, if I, as the manager, knows more than my staff about the real world, sometimes that happens because I know maybe all the numbers, and I know that the company is already not profitable anymore, then I need to tell people what they have to do because they don't have the information, and they make a lot of mistakes on false assumptions, based on false assumptions, right? I mean, if I believe the company has a lot of money, then I can spend money, but if I don't have any money anymore, and I don't tell these people, then I will make wrong decisions. And that's the same issue with a lot of product owners that I came across them. Usually they don't tell people exactly what is really necessary. We don't talk about constraints. We don't talk about all these legal aspects before we start our projects. And sometimes the reason is we don't know them. Yeah? And that creates this vicious cycles. We don't know it, and then now we do a mistake, and then people believe people are stupid, and then you have, again, this control mechanism in place, or fairness. So what you need to do from a leadership perspective, you need to come up with a system in your company or in your team or in your department so that you can push all the information to your people. Yeah? And even ask the people in your company, in your teams, to share all the information that they have. Well, now we have an issue. A lot of people believe they are only, or their position in the company is only secure as long as they have the information, right? I mean, I'm so important because I am the guy who knows it. Yeah, that's a culture issue. And who is responsible for managing a culture? Who creating a mindset? Leaders. So if you want to come up with an agile company, there is no way around to start with leadership. And leadership doesn't mean it needs to come from the top. I mean, it will fail at some point in time if it's not coming from the top. But it never started with top management. All Agile was grassroots, okay? So it starts with leadership on your own level. It starts with telling people sharing ideas is a good idea. Sharing information is a good idea. By sharing, we will create more wealth for all of us. Yeah? By sharing and discussing and having iterations and trying out something, we will achieve more if we don't treat every mistake as a big issue. Yeah? It's like in science. If you do a mistake in science, I mean, it's not a mistake, it's an experiment, and then you get a result. And then based on the result, you do the next aspect. Yeah. So leadership is always, or was always, about collaboration, and the Agile approach to that is to understand we need to come up with an idea helping people to self-organize by not telling people what to do, by not creating structures from top, but by enabling the building of structures in a way that the system itself creates a structure. And sometimes, so that is the big problem, that's the real big issue. Sometimes, and most of the time, your people will start creating hierarchically structures. So you as a leader believe in self-organization and circles and open space and agile and talking to each other. But 200 years of socialization, school, education, the parents of your people educated and socialized all of us, include myself, not this way, right? We have, I mean, maybe it's only my generation, maybe the generation Y, and I don't know what is next, Z, and I don't know, Epsilon, whatever. They will wake up in a society that has all this agile mindset in place, but at the moment, the ones who need to change that whole mindset are the ones in power. That's why we are in power. Maybe not on top, but at least in our specific communities. So we need to change. But the problem with us is we have no clue how to do that. Yeah? I mean, we have some ideas. And Jutta will, for instance, will tell you some of these ideas. So, but the issue is it's our own social, we will make the mistakes. We will have issues with that. We will have to come up with ideas how to create structures that are really self-organized, how to enable people to learn in a different way. And we are the leaders. We need to lead people into that direction, not knowing exactly how to do that. That's frightening. Especially if you have a boss who tells you need to be successful. That's an issue. Huh? Or a catch-22. So the real, but the fun thing with leaders is they are typically the brave ones. And bravery in that specific means I try something out not knowing if it will work, but I believe. I believe that this approach works. And last, then I'm open for questions, and the last thing I was trying to do in my own company, we have 60 people, and I'm currently on a sabbatical. Okay, my company is, I'm currently on a sabbatical, and I've, since 3 months now, and there will be another 6 months on sabbatical, and they said, well, what does it mean? I mean, I won't be there. What does, I mean, yeah, I mean, I need to try out if my company that is built completely in a self-organized idea, using open space ideas, having all that in place, if this company will run on its own. You know. And that's a kind of thing. And of course, I check the numbers every month. But I only check the numbers. Yeah? I said, it's up on you. I mean, of course, I would like to know if we make money or not. But yeah. If you don't make money, maybe you make the right decisions at the end. Yeah. It's an experiment, and I will see in 4 to 6 months if it works. And I'm 100%, I mean, it will work, but I mean.
And then permanent sabbatical?
Yeah, that's maybe then I mean, you know, next step. I don't know, I mean, a company that runs on its own is cool, right? So, any questions?
Well, thank you very much for this very interesting and enthusiastic talk.
Many thanks for that. The issue of self-organizing has been going on for quite some time now.
Mm-hmm.
Organizational structure has been in theory and in practice for more than 100 years.
Yeah.
Some organizations, they need structures, and self-organizing may be sometimes not suitable for some type of organizations. And if we take examples like a government as an organization,
Yeah.
or other type of organizations like the NHS in UK. NHS, one of the most complicated organizations in the world, and how to run that kind of organization in a self-organizing structure may be not an appropriate way of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is my issue, that there will be some organizations which will need some sort of organization structure rather than self-organizing structure. Thank you.
It's not black or white, of course. But the industry was based on industrialization and all that mindset that we needed from Taylor and Sloan and so on. They created ideas based on bureaucracy from 18th century. They came up with all these ideas how to manage hundreds of thousands of people, and they were able to do that. And it's a specific mindset that we developed over the last 2,000 years. Having one big issue, we had no internet. And as long as you are not able to disseminate all information on time to everybody fast enough, you need to come up with a structure that the system itself organizes in a way that the transaction costs gets lower than the competitor. And during the last 200 years, the most successful way of doing that is a military-style organization. It's faster. The issue is, if war starts to be complex, super complex, hyper complex, the military stops that approach. They have started to say, I have my teams, let them do what they want. There's a clear goal, win the battle. But on the other hand, give it to the teams, and they do that. Because they are able to do it, because they are now able to give every soldier all information he needs. So the industry created that system that we are not fighting against, but that we try to overcome, is that created the issue. It becomes too complex. All our institutions are too complex. Health is too complex. It's super expensive. Schools are super expensive. The whole bureaucracy is too expensive. Large organizations get too expensive in their management style. That's the issue. It's not an issue about being agile or not. It's a problem of getting too large. And the only way to change that is implementing self-organization and giving small teams the chance of giving all the information. So it will change over time. And of course, most organizations are not prepared to do that. Long answer for, sorry, but it's the basic idea. Do I have a time for another question?
No.
No, of course not.
So
Thank you very much. Yeah.